guys, welcome back. And now we're going to move on to step 2, which is color correction. Now this is a very important step, and it's actually probably the most missed step. Most beginners won't even go down this way because they're not even using a program that they can even color correct in. So we're going to be using Photoshop. That is my program of choice, but you can also use programs like GIMP, which is free, or Affinity Photo or Affinity Designer. There's a couple other ones out there that you can use as well. But Photoshop is the industry standard and the go-to. So we're going to hop into Photoshop right now. We're going to show you how to kind of get a basic design together and how to make sure that the colors are popping correctly. And then we're going to go ahead and show you the printer settings in the next video, and then head on over to the heat press in the video after that. So that way you have kind of like a step-by-step on how to kind of go from beginning to end. So anyway, if you could also, guys, take time to hit the like and subscribe down below. It helps me help you by making more videos so I know what kind of content. Also, feel free to comment below what kind of videos you might be interested in. What kind of questions do you have? So anyway, we're going to hop into it right now. Also, we have a new Facebook group called Heat Press Creators. If you haven't joined already, please do so. It's free, and you can do that as well. There's a link down below. And let's hop into Photoshop. All right, so now we are in Photoshop. We are going to create our artwork before we color correct it. So we're going to kind of create a quick design here. First thing we want to do is hit Create New. And this should be right here on the front of Photoshop for you. And it'll bring up this dialog box. We're going to create our own 8 by 13 is the dimensions, and that's in inches. And then you want to make sure that it's at 300 DPI, okay? And you also want to make sure that this is selected at CMYK color, not RGB. You want to make sure it's CMYK. This size, I have a Epson 2720 that prints up to 8.5 by 14. I set this actually at 8 inches by 13 inches because there's a little bit of a cutoff. It doesn't print borderless. So there's a little bit of a gap on each side, so this compensates for it. So I make sure that the design is definitely going to fit. I tend to make a lot of my designs a little bit more vertical anyway, so it's not a big deal. So anyway, once you have this kind of filled out, up here where it says Preset Details, if you click this little button right here, it's going to allow you to like save it as a name. So you can name it like Sublimation print ready. And I usually write legal because that's the size of the paper. Okay. And then I save that preset, and as you see, it kind of pops up over here. So now every time I open up and hit Create New, if I click on this Saved tab up here, I'll be able to see those presets that I saved, so I can use them later on over and over again. So when you start a new file, I always start with a completely blank file just like this, even if I already have the artwork. If someone sent me artwork, I always still create my own template that I know will print correctly to my printer. So I suggest doing this as a habit, okay? So we select this, and we're going to hit Create, and now we have our artwork artboard here that we can start creating stuff on. Now, if you're new to Photoshop, I know it's overwhelming at first. You're going to be like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Don't try to learn everything at once. I'm just going to run through some basics that are easy to follow, and then you can build on from there. This will get you at least going, so you can get at least the design made and color corrected and printed. So anyway, so this is your main design area. Over here are all your main tools. So you have like your pointer tool, you have a selection tool. You can go through all these later on. There's a zillion tutorials on this stuff, guys. Over here, this is another important one down here. This is your layers palette. Layers are kind of like, imagine a paper laying on top of another paper laying on top of another paper, and you cut out little holes in each layer. That's what layering is. So basically it's just stacked, and you can put things on top of each other. That's how you make your design. So anyway, we're going to start off by loading in an image that I got off of Unsplash. Where did I find that Unsplash? I is. Anyway, let me just load in this file real quick. You go to File, you go into Place Embedded. Okay, this is what you want to load in if you have artwork that you either downloaded from online or maybe you bought off Etsy or a designer sent you. Hit Place Embedded. Find what you want to do. I'm going to bring this one in. I found this really cool picture of flowers that I thought was kind of cool. I'm going to bring it in from the edge just a bit. There's these like little handles all the way around. If you grab the corner, it's going to size it perfectly dimensional, so it's not going to stretch anything. And you don't want to stretch anything. You always want to try to keep it dimensionally correct. So I'm going to just bring it in just a little bit. I'm going to move it to the middle. And Photoshop's really great in these later versions because it gives you guides. See how that guide just popped up to show you where the middle of the paper is, which is very helpful. So anyway, we're going to pop that there. If you double click it, it's going to place it now. So now this has its own layer. Remember I told you about the layers palette? This is where you're at now. So this is the layer that we just placed using that place embedded feature of Photoshop. Okay. So now that this is on its own layer, I want to color correct it. If you can see, there's kind of a yellow cast over this whole picture. And I know that I don't want that because I think it's going to print too yellowish and it won't look that good on the shirt. So I need to change that. And so over here in that layers palette, at the very bottom, there's some options down here. There's this one that looks like kind of like a, I don't know, like a half moon. It's like an outline of a moon with a half of it filled in. And it's an adjustment layer. So if you click that, it's going to bring up some options. You want to select curves. So when you get to curves, this box pops up right above the layers palette. Okay? I hope I haven't lost you yet. Stick with me here. It's not that hard from this point forward. So now that we got here, over here there's 3 buttons. Okay? These are color pickers that allow you to tell the program what is the black and what is white in this. It's almost like a white balance. If you have ever taken a photography class, they talk about white balance, like what is the absolute white. I'm going to assume that these were a little bit more white in the actual live version of this. I want to get them back to normal. So over here, I'm going to first select the top one. This is for the black. So now I go to the blackest part of the image and I click once and it selects it. You're barely going to see a change in this one because the blacks are pretty saturated, but it did shift slightly and made it a little bit darker. My next is the bottom one, which is the white color picker. Now this you place where you want to tell the computer where the whites are. So right here where the lightest part of the image, I'm assuming that's the white. And that's actually what I want it to be, so I'll get some good contrast. Now watch what I do when I click this area. See how that popped and shifted? And now there's a little bit more, and I might even go a little bit further, maybe find it, there it is. That looks a lot better. So now that's popping to me, okay? Now over here you have this like curves area that you can now still manipulate. So now I'm going to I can move this curve. See how there's a curve? It places a button on it, and I go darker or lighter. And I want it to kind of go just a little bit darker. I think right about there. That looks a lot better. And to see the difference, guys, so you know, if you go back to where you placed it, look at the difference. Okay, that was the beginning, and now look at it. It's much better. That's going to have a lot more pop on the shirt, and that's what we want. So, okay. Now that we have that, you see back over here in the layers palette, you now have 3 layers. You have what the layer was when you opened it up when it was just a blank document. Then you have a layer of that artwork that we placed using that place embedded feature. And then on top of it is that adjustment layer that we did by using curves down here. And it makes its own adjustment layer. What's nice about these adjustment layers is that you're able to kind of turn them off and on, so you can kind of see what it looks like without it or with on it. So it doesn't hurt the actual image here, which is great. So anyway, so now we have the start of this. This is looking really good so far, but I want to give it a little more oomph, and I'm sure you would probably want to do a little bit more than just pop a picture on a shirt. So let's work on something else. Let's put some type on this, okay? I'm going to select the text tool over here on the left. It's a T. Click it once, And then over here, go ahead and click again. It's going to bring, sometimes it brings up sample text. You can set it to what you want. I just have it pop up like that. The font I'm using, I'll tell you here in a second, but I'm just going to do something, let's just write love, since Valentine's is coming up pretty soon. And once you're done typing, click on this arrow tool afterwards. And now you see there's your text, but you're like, that is far too small. That doesn't look right. Of course it doesn't. That was just to get the text in there. Now there's two ways to adjust your text. Over here on the right, you're going to have this character palette is what it is. If you click that, this allows you to change all your fonts. Okay, so you can go through all your fonts that you want. I like, this one is called Andreas. It's a demo. I think I got it off 1001 fonts. But you can make it whatever font you want, guys. This is going to work for any kind of font. I'm just using this for right now. What I'd like to do is change it, though, a little bit. And what I want to do is actually click it, okay? And you see it's selected here down in the layers palette. Make sure it's selected. And then what I want you to do is I'm going to go and hit Control on your keyboard if you're on a Windows machine, or your Apple button, and click T at the same time. T is in Tommy. So actually T is in transform, because that's actually what you're going to be doing. So when you click that, it's going to bring up these arrows again, like how you place the image in the beginning. Click one of the corners, and then go ahead and increase it to the size that you want. I think that looks pretty good. I'm just going to pop it right here in the middle, and then I'm going to double click it. Now what I'm going to do is play around with some modes. Now in this layers palette, you're like, what are the modes? I'm trying to throw a lot at you very simply, so you can kind of just run through it and then you can kind of figure it out later. But anyway, you're on this text layer, so make sure your text layers, and there's this little drop down. It says normal right now, okay? If you click this and you start to go through these, you'll start to see that it changes how it reacts to the bottom layer. So it, as you can see, like kind of popping up, kind of see-through-ish, you know, kind of finding what you want. I really liked how the linear dodge looked a little bit, but I think, actually, I might go with something else. Let's see. I don't know. I'm going to go with the linear dodge. Let's try that. And then I want to duplicate it. So I take this layer and I'm going to duplicate it by dragging it to this little plus button at the bottom of the layers palette, right next to the thing. And you see it got a little bit darker now. And now I'm going to put this one, I think, on normal. And I'm going to bring the color, I'm going to change the color up here in the character palette. If you click this color, it's going to bring up a little color palette like this, and we're going to select white. And now it's a little bit overblown, and I want to bring down the opacity, so I make sure that top layer I just made is selected. And right next to this normal, you have it says opacity. This is how visible it is. So transparency is the best way to kind of describe what that is. Go ahead and bring that down now. And as you can see, we're kind of finding what I want to just kind of be kind of hidden in there, kind of like just like a lost little thing. So now you have this design. You got, it says love there, but it's kind of subtle. And I think I'm going to pop it even maybe there. Let's see, right there. That looks okay. All right, we're going to leave it there. And now we're going to add another little piece here just on top and bottom to complete the design, because it seems a little lacking still. So I'm going to go over here and we're going to open this time. Go to File and Open. And I have this file I found that have these really cool frame bookends on top and bottom. And I just want to grab this one and we're going to duplicate it on the other. So how do I get this into the other file? Okay, first thing we're going to do is right underneath this top selection one, top pointer tool, there is a selection tool. So go ahead and click that. And then what we're going to do is just drag over the area you want to select, which is right there. I'm going to go ahead and crop this down. So all I have to worry about is this. And I go to image, and I go to crop. And now I'm left with just that, which is what I want. And now I'm going to go under select, and I'm going to go under color range. All right. I hit color range. Ooh, where'd it go? Actually, let's deselect. Okay, so color range. And color range came on up over here, and you'll see this like dialog box, okay? And what I want to do is click the color I want it to select. So I click the black, and you can see it comes in right there, and I click OK. And now, as you can see, it selected just the area I want to use, which is awesome. Now, I personally want to make this a little bit darker before I take it in. So what I'm going to do is turn this black over here. On the bottom of this toolbar are your colors. And this is your foreground color, and the one in the back is your background color. But the foreground color, change to black, and you can do that by just hitting this button right here. It resets it. So that resets it to a black. And now what I want to do is go edit and fill. And what that's going to do is put that dark black, which is the one I want, into that space. And you see how much darker it got, which is exactly what we want. All right, now I'm just going to basically drag this. So go back up to the pointer tool. All right, I'm now selecting this pointer tool at the very top. I'm going over to this color that we just selected. I'm going to click, hold on to it, and drag it all the way into this other piece that we already have going, this other file, and drop it. And there it is. And now, as you can see, this is a little bit smaller than it should be. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to transform it and make it bigger by hitting Control and T as in Tommy, or T as in transform. And then we're going to grab one of these corners, and we're just going to fit it so that it's properly placed. Double click it so that it finalizes the placement. And now we can move it down just a little bit. And as you can see, it's starting to really come together now. And now I want to put this same thing down here on the bottom. So now let's grab this, and we're going to drag this to that same duplicate button, which is that little plus on the bottom of the layers palette. I made a copy there. And now we're going to click it and drag it to the bottom. And if you go over here now to edit and over to transform, at the very bottom, you have flip horizontal or flip vertical. We're going to flip vertical. So there you go. And it flipped it upside down. So now we got a nice frame. Now let's just do the final little placing of it. That looks pretty good. I don't know if I like that love part. Let's kind of put that. Maybe put that there. Let's change this a little bit. Let's make that a little brighter. And you know what? Let's put a little shadow on it. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, let's do that instead. We're going to turn off that first one we did. I don't think that was working. Let's forget about that. Let's do that top one that is still set at normal and is that white piece. Then over here at the bottom, you have this FX button in the layers palette. And this allows you to add effects to that layer. And what we want to do is give it a stroke. And so now let's give it a stroke. It's going to bring up this dialog box. And right now I have it set to black, which I think kind of works. Let me see if one of these other colors. If you hit this little color box for it, you can either select a color here, or you can actually pick a color from the actual image, which is what I'm going to do, and see if that gives it a little bit more of a better look. Let's see. That's nice. I kind of like that. That's kind of nice. Let's do that. All right, so there we go. We got a love shirt now. That looks pretty good. I think that is pretty much ready to print, and let's see how that will end up sublimated. I like that it has the blacks. It has a couple different colors in it. So hopefully this will be a kind of a good one to kind of play around with. But anyway, this will get you your basics, guys. I hope that helped you kind of at least get a little bit of understanding of color correction and otherwise. Actually, I should probably run through you a little bit more. You know what? Just in case, just so you know a little bit more about color correction, the first thing is mainly getting the contrast and the colors to pop, right? But let's say you didn't like this color. Let's say you're like, okay, I don't really want it to be red. You know, I want it to be a different color. You can do the same thing you did over here by adding a, over here in the layers palette, one of those adjustment layers again, but this time, let's try out, you can either use hue and saturation or color balance. Let's check out both. Let's do hue and saturation. And hue and saturation will allow you to change the hues, the saturation of it, or the lightness. The hues, what I meant by that is if you take the slider and start sliding around, you can see you can totally change the vibe of the shirt just by moving the slider around and finding what is it that you want it to look like. So you have these options as well, guys, okay? I'm going to leave it where I was. You can also take away the saturation or add more saturation. So maybe I want to really have a ton of extra saturation, or maybe I want it almost to be black and white. You can do either one, guys, okay? Again, I'm going to leave it where it was. I just wanted to show you that. As far as anything else you could do, you could also add a color balance. Now, color balance is going to be a little bit more specific to colors. So you're going to have these 3 bars, and they switch from the cyan to red, the magenta to green, and the yellow to blue. And as you adjust these, you will see how it affects the image, okay? And this is all stuff, it's all depending on what you're working on, guys. So there's no one method and that's the end of it. It's kind of like trial and error. You got to play around with it. Take some time to really make it look as good as you can. Like, as you can see how easy it is to change the colors and the vibe. Actually, I kind of like that a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit more magenta. Yeah, and I'm going to add a little blue. See how I kind of made it like a little bit cooler vibe? Very nice. And just in case you want to undo anything, guys, okay? In Photoshop, up here at the top of this bar where you saw that character palette, there's your history palette. And this shows you everything you've done in the program so far. So you can go back 1, 2, 3, and you can see the differences of what has happened and what you've done. You can always, you know, from here, it's endless, guys. It's a program that you can do anything. I mean, if you've seen Photoshop files, I mean, you can get away with just about anything. So definitely a program I recommend to use. But anyway, this will at least get you started with building designs in Photoshop and getting them printed out to Sublimate. So the next video, I'm going to show you the printer settings that we're going to use to send this to print. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know of any comments, any questions that you might have. Be glad to answer them, and I will see you in the next video. All right, guys, so hopefully that gave you a little bit more insight on why color correction is needed. Kind of maybe showed you some design tricks that you can do in Photoshop to put some basic designs together. And now we're going to hop into another video, which is going to show you the printer settings. It's a quick video. It's just going to show you basically the settings that I use to print out. I go over that also in this video where I set up a 2720 Epson printer to Sublimate. So if you could also, while you're at it, hit the like and subscribe, guys. It's always good to get more followers, so that way I know that this content is valuable to somebody out there somewhere. So anyway, I'm going to see you in the next video. Stay tuned.